设在人口这么稠密的地方呢？
Controversy surrounds Taiwan's plans to build new military sites, as residents fear their fate in the case of war. An elite Secret Service squad is trained and ready for any threat to Taiwan's presidential candidates.
I'm at a district office in Taipei where, after a heart-rending campaign, more foreigners can now come and claim equal disability rights.
Plus, this may look like any other performance, but it's been specially tailored to entertain and inspire a unique audience, deaf children. Good evening, and welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Eric Gao. Taiwan's military is planning to build 6 new coastal defense sites to defend the country's shores, but their proposed locations have some politicians worried that they will put nearby residents at risk in a potential war with China. Jaime Okan reports.
These are harpoon missiles. They're anti-ship weapons that can be fired from a fighter jet or the coast. Taiwan has ordered over 400 from the U.S., and they're set to arrive in 2026. And now the military wants to build 6 new coastal defense sites to house them in an effort to protect Taiwan's main island. These sites are part of the country's push to defend against a possible Chinese invasion as Beijing ramps up military activity around Taiwan.
It's not that the Chinese will come to believe they can take Taiwan quickly, but it will be costly. It has to be the case that Taiwan has the capabilities to withstand a Chinese attack long enough for the United States to get to Taiwan's aid.
These missiles are some of the most advanced in the world. They can take out ships and protect key infrastructure from being attacked. But the location of these new launch sites is facing pushback from some politicians. Members of the opposition Kuomintang say they will turn residential areas into targets.
我们虎尾基地是属于一个内陆的基地哈，那这个基地呢，我想在这里如果安置鱼叉飞弹哦，不但没有成效哈，我想针对国防部本身的一个专业跟经验，他们评估它应该设置在岸边比较好。
Even a city councilor from Kaohsiung, which houses a major naval site, expressed concern.
那为何还要设在人口这么稠密的地方呢？更何况台积电就在附近，这样合理吗？
The country has invested heavily in its navy, anti-air, and anti-ship capabilities. Taiwan's military has also doubled down on coastal defense and is trying to make it as difficult as possible to attack the country. Taiwan's defense ministry responded to concerns over the new sites and is working with local communities.
国防部会兼顾建军备战的需要跟民生发展的需求，持衡执行睦邻工作。
While the military says it respects local concerns, national security is ultimately the top priority. Howard Zhang and Jaime Okan for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's Coast Guard has intercepted a Chinese fishing boat that it says was trespassing in waters near the Penghu Islands. That boat attempted to flee, but was chased down and boarded. Now, that boat was one of 2 fishing vessels spotted that same morning in waters claimed by Taiwan. The Coast Guard detained the boat's 8 crew members and tossed 300 kilograms of illegally caught fish back into the sea. The crew is now being investigated. China has told the UK to stop efforts to strengthen ties with Taiwan. This comes after Britain signed a trade agreement with Taiwan, which China claims as its own. Beijing urged London to abide by the One China principle and to stop using trade cooperation as an excuse to engage in official exchanges with Taipei. This new trade pact is going to focus on digital trade, renewable energy, and investment. Meanwhile, China is also urging Estonia to prevent Taiwan from opening a representative office in that Baltic nation. Taiwan says it is discussing setting up an office in Tallinn to boost bilateral exchanges. Estonian media reported that the country's ambassador from China threatened to leave Estonia if Taiwan opens an office there. This comes as Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Lyn is visiting the 3 Baltic nations, that's Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. Taiwan's presidential candidates are giving voters a clearer idea of what to expect if they win. And as John Van Tres reports, it's a change of pace in a campaign season that's so far been pretty light on policy.
Goalie for a day. Presidential hopeful Lai Qingde saves a goal-bound shot. before long, he's playing badminton too. There's a reason for this sporty campaign stop. Ly's pledging an 8-pronged policy aimed at getting people exercising.
我将成立体育运动发展部，既重视体育教育，也重视运动产业的发展。清德当总统，我们预算体育的预算超过200亿，好不好？
He's not the only one making new pledges, though. In a campaign season that's been more about personality than policy, candidates are finally giving voters a look at what they stand for. The Taiwan People's Party, led by candidate ChinaUrges, hopes to break the monopoly of Taiwan's 2 established parties. And Ke now hopes a focus on industry and economics will be what makes his dreams of a third-party victory come true. He's especially taken aim at what politicians have taken to calling Taiwan's 5 shortages, those of energy, land, labor, water, and skilled workers that he says hold Taiwan's growth back.
5缺是什么问题？我说缺长期计划，政党轮替就解决了。 因为他们就是永远大傻逼政策，不会做长期规划。
And the main opposition, Kuomintang, or KMT, rallied around candidate Ho Yo-i, has taken aim at culture. Ho says the arts can help mend the tense ties between Taiwan and China, separated by deep political differences as well as the Taiwan Strait.
两岸对话其实文化就是一个非常好的沟通桥梁，所以我坚持中华文化，用文化相声共赢台湾，两岸对话。
With just 2 months to Election Day and party loyalties strong, it's not clear how much these policy statements will sway voters. But they do give a clearer picture of what voters can expect from their next president, whoever that may be. Delphine Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Meanwhile, Taiwan's Secret Service says it is ready to protect the country's presidential candidates from harm before the big election in January. The agency's new elite squad has shown media how it would defend presidential hopefuls from a shooting attempt while campaigning. The bodyguards got special training for just that situation. That's to prevent what happened last year in Japan, where former Prime Minister Abe Shinzo was shot dead during a rally. The head of Taiwan's National Security Bureau says guards had to pass 18 weeks of training and tests in order to join this team.
这是只许成功不容失败的任务，在任务期间。 我们全体工作同仁特应严守纪律要求，注意保密工作。
An indigenous man has won the right to use just his Romanized indigenous name on his Taiwan national ID card, and this is seen as a big step for indigenous rights here in Taiwan. Batu Payan of the Dayan indigenous group filed a suit against the law that requires indigenous people to include a name in Chinese characters on their ID. This week, the court ruled in his favor. The judge said that forcing him to write his name that way infringed on his cultural and identity rights. Although the ruling only applies to this one case, it is being welcomed by other indigenous Taiwanese who are bringing similar cases to court.
我觉得最重要的事情是这个判决它直接引用了宪法的保障，认定说原住民的这个命名权跟怎么样去呈现名字这件事情，应该是宪法保障的，就是平等。
It's virtually certain that 2023 will be the hottest year on record. That's according to the EU's Copernicus Climate Change Service. Last month was the hottest October ever recorded, following a string of record-breaking monthly temperatures this year. Scientists say this trend is due to a combination of the El Niño effect and human-caused climate change. They say the rising temperatures will mean more extreme weather events.
We're more likely to have events like that, more severe hurricanes and cyclones, more intense storms. So we know with this extra heat in the atmosphere, it brings with it extra energy, which means we get more intense extreme events.
For more about how increasing temperatures might affect Taiwan, our reporter Reese Ayres spoke to Siming Peng, the CEO of Weather Risk.
2023 is set to be the hottest year on record. So what does this mean for Taiwan? Are there any particular risk factors given Taiwan's geography?
So in Taiwan, the hottest temperature every day is not equal to the globally. But in average, we still have a very hot summer. Compared to the not the hottest one, top 10. And also the very warm autumn. And supposedly, because the El Nino, it will be a very hot winter. So in Taiwan, the temperature is still very high, And just quite amazing is typhoon, because the higher sea surface temperature means that there will more energy for the typhoon itself. So it will have more strong typhoon. So such a kind of strong typhoon can maybe more damage in the future. From right now until the next year is unpredictable territory. I don't know.
What does the long term look like for Taiwan if the climate emergency worsens?
Taiwan is a small island because we're surrounded by the ocean. So we cannot suffer such as hot weather compared to some, for example, United States or in China or European Union. So in Taiwan, we suffer such a kind of extreme event more than the global warming, although it's warming. But in the future, actually, the temperature ratio is going up very quickly. By all of the predictions show in Taiwan, for example, some area before 2050 will be over, compared now will be over 1 to 2 degrees. So it's over the record of the global. But the people think, oh, it's just okay.
People often applaud Taiwan for its green policies, having this developed recycling system and following the Sustainable Development Goals. But with the elections coming up in just a few months' time, is Taiwan doing enough to tackle the climate emergency?
I think the first thing is we should be open the information, open the data, and educate the people more understand about this. It's very important because lots of people don't understand the importance of climate change. They notice, but no action. So that's a problem. And the second is in Taiwan, we can have more green job in the future. So it's kind of the transition from the enterprise and also the government. But right now we did. I will not say it's do nothing. We do something, but it's not enough.
That was Weatherist CEO Ziming Peng speaking with our reporter Reese Ayers. Now, these rising global temperatures are proving to be a challenge for Taiwan's many fruit farmers. But there's one Hakka family that's using age-old farming traditions to make the most out of what they do have. Sally Jensen explains.
The orange fruit, the peeling motion, the racks where they dry under the sun. Almost everything here is circle-shaped. This Hakka family in Taiwan's northwestern Hsinchu County has used the same production line for drying persimmons for over 100 years.
看得到就是像我右手边这边是在削皮，对，那我们现在是都有机器可以帮忙了。那如果是以前的话是没有机器的话，都是要纯手工啦。
Hakka people are an ethnic minority in Taiwan, making up around 20% of the population. Centuries of migration from southern China brought over their agricultural and preserving traditions and sweet persimmons. There are 3 kinds of persimmons here in Taiwan's Hakka heartland. This one's like a beef heart, this one more like a stone, and this one like an ink brush. And they're all being dried here on these racks. And this process relies heavily on sunshine and seasonal winds, which are growing less reliable due to the changing climate. Lychees, mangoes, guavas, all kinds of fruits in Taiwan are feeling the effects of longer summers and extreme weather, and persimmons are no exception.
那我们其实就是需要太阳之外，就是需要风把我们的水分带走，这样子才会干。对，那当然是以现在暖化的话，我们其实就少了风的话，我们其实就是成功率会降低啦。暖化对我们的这种传统做法的影响，就是制品变得比较不好制作。
But small-scale family-run initiatives like this are using time-tested methods to make the most of what they have. No part of the fruit goes to waste. The mountains of peeled skin are fermented and used as compost to nourish the persimmon trees.
它有很多药用啦，但一般人就会煮茶，而我们是因为量很多，所以我们都是做肥料，当有机肥。
Even the copper stains from the peeling process have a use. They're used as a natural dye for textiles and to make beauty products.
就是它里面含了很丰富的单宁酸。那单宁酸的话，我们就是可以用来，像我手上这个，我们就是可以用来染布。对，这个就是我们的试染，然后就是这样子循环这样子。
But perhaps the biggest impact comes from the operation's public accessibility for education and tourism. These farmers hope to pass on their persimmon growing methods generation after generation. But in an age of unprecedented change, their larger goal is to promote the idea of circular regeneration. John Su and Sally Jensen in Hsinchu County for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, this new book is teaching children more than how to pass an exam.
Start your weekend with a cup of coffee and a moment to reflect on what happened this week.
Hello and welcome.
We've got you covered, from defense and politics to high tech and the arts.
Not just to Taiwan, the whole world is watching.
You make the coffee,
we make the news.
Here's what happened on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Gaza cannot continue to be run by the militant group Hamas, but that Israel cannot reoccupy the territory. He says governance of that region may require a transition period.
What I've heard from Israeli leaders is that they have no intent to reoccupy Gaza and retake control of Gaza. So the only question is there some transition period that might be necessary?
Blinken made those comments after a Group of 7 meeting in Tokyo. G7 countries made a joint statement saying that Israel does have the right to defend itself, but that it must follow international humanitarian laws. Israel's military has entered Gaza City and is facing resistance from Hamas fighters, who are using underground tunnels. Israel's offensive is in response to a surprise attack on October 7th, when Hamas militants killed 1,400 people and took 240 hostages. Officials in Gaza say over 10,500 people have been killed in the enclave in the month since fighting began. In July, TaiwanPlus reported the plight of Michael Boyden and his wife, Katie Ho. Boyden is a long-term resident of Taiwan, but when he developed a disability, the couple realized that Taiwan does not help disabled foreigners. That has now changed, at least for some foreigners. Louise Watt reports.
After years of fighting for recognition, Katie Ho is finally able to apply for a disability certificate for her British husband. Despite being a long-time resident in Taiwan, as a foreigner, he was not previously eligible for disability benefits, which made caring for him much tougher for his wife.
So it took 4 years for me to arrive here. It's just very emotional.
In 2019, Ho's husband, Michael Boyden, was diagnosed with atypical Parkinsonism, whose symptoms are similar to Parkinson's disease. Since then, the business consultant has lost all ability to communicate and is fed through a tube in his stomach. Without state recognition of his disability, Boyden cannot get subsidized medical equipment or home visits from medical staff, something that his wife has been eagerly awaiting.
I really appreciate home visit, not just for evaluation, but just for the condition I am in. I also had some question, am I doing the right thing? Am I taking the good care? How can I do better? I have no idea. They don't teach you in school, like how to look after a very sick person.
And across the country, there are tens of thousands of foreigners estimated to be living with disabilities. Until recently in Taiwan, only permanent residents from Japan could be certified as disabled and claim the same benefits as Taiwanese. That's because of a reciprocal agreement between the two countries. But now Taiwan is recognizing disabled residents from 3 more countries: Britain, Canada, and the United States. That's because the government here has verified that disability benefits are available to Taiwanese living in those countries. And health officials say that list could expand.
就是要了解哪一些国家对于我们的国民在当地也有一些优惠。如果我们知道这些国家，我们当然会比较办理。
But for the group that campaigned for state recognition of disabled foreigners, basing acceptance on reciprocity isn't enough.
We don't necessarily believe that's an equal way of fair way of doing things.
We believe that even on just basic human rights, a healthcare issue, this should be opened up to all immigrants in Taiwan.
But Chang says opening up disability benefits to 3 countries, including Boyden's, is a good first step. Welfare officials now have to assess his application, but Boyden is likely to be the first foreigner to gain a disability certificate since the change. Too late to undo the sadness and frustration he and his wife have suffered over the past 4 years. But official recognition will open the door to more help and support, and offer hope for other foreigners in Taiwan who are dealing with disability. Klein Wong and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is pushing efforts to use AI to fight cancer. The country's top research institute, Academia Sinica, is teaming up with tech company Acer to develop personalized cancer vaccines. Genetic samples taken from patients are put in a machine which uses AI to custom design a vaccine based on their particular genetic markers. The device is still in development and it won't be ready to hit the market for 3 years. Researchers say these vaccines should help save lives.
因为这样可以预防它的复发，所以它最大的作用，而且最大的市场应该会是预防病人的复发。
A new picture book looks to educate children on how to express their emotions. Tiffany Wong has more.
Growing up can be hard for kids, especially when it comes to feelings and relationships. Luckily, a new children's book could help them with this part of their young lives. At a preview event, students used stickers from the book to express their emotions in different situations. 10-year-old student Huang Guangcheng says 2 of the 4 stories in the book are based on his own experiences.
我有一个朋友搬家了，然后他在那里交了越来越多朋友，所以我们就比较少见面了。
The project is a collaboration between students, illustrators, and the Taiwan Gender Equity Education Association. The group created the book to be read alongside its other teaching materials on emotional education, an initiative it launched 2 years ago. The association says that modern relationships have changed, and education needs to be updated to teach young people how to safely navigate these experiences. It adds that online dating is becoming more common, even in primary schools.
现在还是写说，2个人要交往之前要先进行团体活动，大家一起互相认识，然后再团体约会，然后再1对1的约会，最后就谈恋爱，然后结婚，非常不符合现在。
A mother of 2 young children says the book's lessons are important for kids and can be applied to all kinds of relationships.
就算他跟父母也会有冲突，兄妹跟兄妹也会有冲突，这些冲突都是慢慢的，你需要去调节他们之间的关系。
The association hopes the book can help children understand how to express their emotions, overcome hardships, and have more fulfilling relationships. It plans to launch a fundraiser to publish the book at the end of the year. Devin Tsai and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
A modern indigenous Pwan dance troupe is introducing its performance to very special audiences. Yujing Huang has this story.
The choreography of this dance is based on sign language, custom-made for the audience. This work by Dimor Dance Theater is made especially for deaf people. Performance art is generally not as accessible to this special group, but this piece, Gamelang So, is one that hopes to provide a richer experience for this underserved group. The troupe held this performance for children at the Taipei School for the Hearing Impaired.
其实他们的语言是很美的，透过这样子的语言，我觉得让台湾的孩子们或者是世界的孩子们可以看到不同的语言，然后这个语言呢，包含了情绪，包含了身体。 包含最重要是心理的关照。
Dimor Dance Theater's collaboration with the school is a part of a government project. It aims to expose younger audiences to art. Aside from this school, the troupe is also presenting its modern dance with indigenous Pwan elements to children in southern Taiwan. They are not alone. A total of 42 groups have joined the project, introducing different forms of art to over 200 schools. The Culture Ministry targets rural schools or those focused on serving children with special needs.
那这样的一个案子，我们在下一个年度会持续的推动。那我们也希望每一个学校都像启聪学这样，会开一个开放的心情，然后接受我们的团队到学校去跟学生做这样一个艺术的一个接触跟推广。
我相信在这个过程里面，他们会有机会，因为视觉上快速的转换，在他的思维上会有一些不同的感受，终究会在未来的某一个时间点，我相信今天的表演会对他们产生一些新的影响。
The project has been going for 6 years now, and hundreds of art groups have done their part to help bring about cultural equity. The artists are there to inspire the children, but they are also just as likely to find inspiration in their special audiences. Chris Ma and Eugene Huang for TaiwanPlus.
And now sports. Former NBA star Joseph Lyn teamed up with his brother Joseph to take down a visiting team from South Korea. The Seoul SK Knights came to Taiwan for an interleague basketball game against the local New Taipei Kings. That game was part of the East Asia Super League, which organizes matches between teams in Asia. It was the first time the Lyn brothers played on the same court since Jeremy signed with the Kings in September. Jeremy put up 12 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds, while Joseph sank 5 three-pointers. The Kings beat the Knights 90-72. Thanks for joining us here on TaiwanPlus News this evening. Before we go, check out these life-size models of African savanna elephants and dwarf elephants on display at the American Museum of Natural History in New York. I'm Eric Gao, and we'll see you next time.